Come with it. The black man himself, Leroy Calise, the Black Stallion. It's Friday night. Come with it. Let me party. Politics, you gotta get some time to shake up and jam up. Come with it. Your fans, they want you to party. Good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Whether you're joining us from Trinidad and Tobago, they have the big match there tonight. It's still 8 o'clock, so you all don't run away from the program. This, and I know the CPL catch everybody this year. It catch me too. It catch Dr. Adams too. You know, we are old timers. We are accustomed bat and pad close together. The ball, and it's pitched up outside the off stump, and you play right forward, and it's pitched on the middle stump, and you turn it through square leg. Well, all of that change up now. You can pitch it 10 yards outside the half stump, then by just fetch it to mid wicket. We buy it in my head, so they catch it to corner. Them boys change up the thing now. But it's cricket, the country sport. The country sport. Yes, the doubleheader tomorrow in Guyana, early morning, 10 o'clock. One match in tomorrow and Sunday night. The other match, and then next week the playoffs starts. So you all have no excuse to leave tonight because the match in Trinidad starting at 8 o'clock, 1 hour from now. Good evening to you, Lynette. My condolences to you on the passing of your father. I completely missed it, but I got somebody reminded me this week. Good evening to you. Good evening to you, Cheryl Andrews. Vibert White. Good evening to you, all of you, wherever you're joining us from. It's in Brooklyn, in Queens. You all probably get on bad in Brooklyn, pun Irfan Ali there the other day, and so on. He says nice. It's nice, Oh my God. It's nice, but all right. That's all right. The people in Brooklyn did their thing and let the world see what you are feeling. You're joining us from out of Guyana. Good evening. Good Friday evening to you. Friday evening, Friday night is a time when all the good folks come out. Long time you go on the seawall and you sit down quiet. Now if you go up on the seawall, come where the fans want to shake up. You get all the big music there and so on and so forth. It's Friday night. Friday evening. And good evening to you if you're joining us from Canada. You're joining us from out there in Europe, in England. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. Mr. Ashley, who is always, every night he's on and he joins us from out there in the old mother country, England. When I was a small boy, is England you want to go to? But nowadays I go America, and then our Indian brothers and them will say, you go Canada. America and Canada. Long time you were going to England. Them time you used to go up on boat. Not even ship, boat. Boat is so called it. Hey, good evening to you, Mortimer. Mortimer is joining us from Antigua and Barbuda. I feel like Antigua is my second home. Every week I dip on them the morning show. What do you call it? Way Too Early, I think, is the program I'll be on there. And Antigua. Of course, lots of bacchanal going on there, Mortimer. In the UPP, everybody leaving the UPP. Everybody left in the UPP and gone away, What's happening there in Antigua? You all gonna give the Labour Party another term. Talk to your people, Mortimer. Talk to your people in the UPP and tell them get their act together. I know what the problem is, They don't want Jamal Hamilton. They say he's not presidential. Well, not presidential. Antigua, he's not prime ministerial. He's not prime ministerial. Good evening to all of you there in Antigua and Barbuda. Enough of you all there in Antigua. Good evening to you, Paulette, joining from one of my homes, Maryland. My people, they're all there in Maryland, and of course, it's coming on to the end of the year, so I'm due for a visit or two to Maryland. But good evening to you, Paulette, and all others who are joining us from the Maryland, Washington, D.C., Virginia area, tri-state, just like you have New Jersey, New York, and of course, if you go north, you're going to Connecticut and so on. And to our brothers and sisters in the southern part of the United States of America, the hurricane there and lots of rain and so on. Stay safe. Stay safe. Those of you who are in Florida, and of course, lots of you are in Georgia, and if you come a little north of that, you're coming into where Dr. Adams is in Tennessee, and South Carolina, North Carolina. You all keep safe, keep safe, keep safe, keep safe, keep safe. Good evening, good evening, good evening to you, Jamal Aziz. I'm joining in from Berbice, West Coast Berbice. It's always good to have people from that part of the country on because they don't make sport there in West Coast Berbice. Welcome to our Friday night edition of Politics 101. Mocha, Dunsford never misses a class. He's joining us from Mocha. These days you hear they say Mocha. Mocha Arcadia. Mocha. Hey. Good evening to you, Dunsford. Hope you all are keeping the faith there. My brother Thomas Robertson, stay safe down there in Georgia. I know you're getting some rain there, but stay inside and stay safe. My sister Denise Booker, of course, is joining us from Brooklyn. Good evening, Denise. Good evening, Karen Black. Good evening, Marcus Skinner. Annette Cummins. Annette is what we call our in-house scholar. A good evening to you, Annette. A good evening to you, Sandra, Claudette Buffill. It's always nice to have all of you on because we are here on a mission, and the mission is to mobilize our people and to get ready to line up our country in the right way so we can make the right decisions. And Owen Bacchus, good evening to you. Good night to you, Ingrid. I think Ingrid is watching from Tampa, Florida. So Ingrid, you're in the heart of the thing. But Tampa is more West Coast now. It's more West Coast, but still, you're all gonna be getting some of that weather. Brenda Norton, good evening to you. Good evening to all of you. If I miss some of you, it's because you are too plenty. For us to acknowledge everybody. Otis Sanko, Rastaman as usual. Hail up, I did this week. A lot of Rasta this week because this week I teach a course on Bob Marley, and this week we did Marcus Garvey, and we did the Rastafari movement, and so we Rastaman, you've been on my mind a lot this week. A couple of Jamaican kids in the class. Well, they're born in America, but Jamaican parents, and they learned about dreadlocks, and they were surprised to learn that the idea of dreadlocks came from Kenya when they were fighting the Mau Mau rebellion in Kenya, and they were showing the documentaries in Jamaica, and the Rasta saw the Mau Mau rebels fighting with their locks. They were they didn't call it locks. They were just fighting the British, and they were in jungle. They weren't combing their hair. And the Rastas saw that and said, well, that is dread. And they started to wear their hair like that. That's where the dreadlocks came from. Courtesy of the Mau Mau rebels in Kenya. Um, Incidentally, it's only a couple years ago that Britain agreed to pay compensation to the families of a lot of the rebels who were fighting there in the 1950s against the British, and they paid some compensation. And in Jamaica, where Rastas in 1963, over 300 of them were arrested and charged and brutalized by the government because two men with dreadlocks had killed a man named Melbourne at a gas station in Montego Bay, Mobay. And the prime minister at that time, Mr. Alexander Bustamante, said, bring in all Rastas, dead or alive. And they start to round the Rastas up and cut off their locks, lock up over 300 of them, beat them up. It was a reign of terror on the Rastafarians in Jamaica. And eventually a delegation of Rastas went to see Sir Arthur Lewis at UWI. He was then the chancellor, and to plead with him to ask the government to stop. Sir Arthur Lewis sent in Rex Nettleford, M.G. Smith, and Professor Agi, and they went in and they did a study of the Rastas, and they concluded the Rastas were not violent people, and they made the report available to the government of Jamaica. The government of Jamaica then paid for a delegation of Rastas to go to Africa. And they visited about 6 African countries. And they came back. 3 years later, Haile Selassie visited Jamaica. And it was only then that the authorities in Jamaica began to recognize the Rastafarians. It was a long struggle for them, Rastafari. And those of you who are Rastas today would not know, some of you would not know of the long struggles that it took for the Rastas to be accepted in our society today. The founder of the Rastafari movement, Leonard Howell, was actually jailed for madness. As I say, he was mad. They jailed him and committed him not to jail, committed it to the mental asylum, because when they were trying him, he refused to talk, or he talked in tongues. And they found him guilty of madness and committed him to Bellevue, which is the asylum there in Jamaica. And eventually he was killed in the asylum there. But all of us wear dreadlocks now and eat the Rasta food and celebrate the Rastas, but the Rastas never got it easy. Never got it easy. It was very, very difficult. But at the end of the day, here we are. All of us are Rastas today. Good evening to all of you Rastafarians in the audience. There's a little bit of Rasta history there as we prepare for our discussion tonight. I think we're ready. I think that you all are signaling to me that it's time for classes. Dr. Adams, good evening.
Hey, good evening, Dr. Hines. I tell you, I hope that you are gonna our Friday night visitors are they're gonna pass with distinction. for their if nothing else, for their dedication, putting off all the good things on the Friday night goodies for us. So yeah, I mean, that is called dedication. So I think we can guarantee them that they're gonna get distinction in this class.
There you go. And as you know, it's a very sharp very sharp group that we have here.
That's
Um,
right.
they don't play around. They don't play around here in this group. Um, Dr. Adams. So this week we saw the PNC unveiled its 20-point plan for oil and gas. Um, quite an quite an extensive plan. Um, Quite a detailed plan. Um, and of course, one cannot be in a Guyana today and not talk about oil and gas. I think it was quite a comprehensive plan. But you are the expert here on oil and gas. What are your thoughts on the plan put forward by the PNC?
Well, without question, and you're absolutely correct. This year is all of Guyana's future, the young, the old, and the in between. And so everyone should welcome. At least we have a plan in place. The the government in power has never come up with a plan, and people ought to know this. But they've been beating Norton, Mr. Norton, and the PNC always said, "Well, where's your plan?" Well, now, the plan has been brought forward, and it hit the vice president right between the eyes. And unfortunately, he is not used to anything that says it's a plan, or anything that says that you're gonna have to, in order to come up with that plan. As you know, you're a professor. In order to come up with a plan or a thesis, you've got to do reviews, to review what exists so that you can understand what exists and to improve on that. So he's now jumped on. I listened to him yesterday, and it was really pathetic. He said all the plan has is this party, all they do is just believe in reviews and feasibility studies, and that's all they're doing, which is, first of all, a blatant lie. The two or three times a review was mentioned was, you do review. For example, it says here, we will review the existing draft of the Petroleum Commission and restructure as necessary to finalize the establishment of an independent. Well, you got to review the current existing one for you to finalize it, right? And then another place it says, um, where they're going to review the PSA, and it says we're going to do a top to bottom review of the PSA and then engage the stable block partner to maximize the benefits of the oil resources. So those are the two places where the review was mentioned. But this man got up there and lying to the people that the only thing that this thing was saying is to do review, no action whatsoever. And then he says on top of it, he's not reading the second part of those sentences, which says, we will do review of the PSC and then engage the contractor to come up with to renegotiate this contract. You read the second part. So that is how deceitful and deceiving this man is. And then he says, Dr. Hines, then the guy says that there's nothing good about this plan. He said, let me see which ones are good. He said there's nothing good. Well, folks, you be the judge. Here's what this man's saying, that there's nothing good about it. It says within 90 days, the the government, the PNC will establish a distinguished advisory team in every single aspect, all specialties, to advise the government. Well, I could understand where he doesn't like that. I can see where he's saying that that's not good, because he doesn't believe in that. Like I said, he just, off the top of his head, he pulls thing out of nowhere, and for his own purpose. It says, of course, they will establish finally the Petroleum Commission that he said that they don't care about. They've shown that they don't care about. Again, he said that's not a good thing. But listen to this one, Dr. Hines. I'm sure you wish that he could erase number three. It says, to eradicate corruption and unethical conduct by government and contractor office, we will institute an inspector general's office to get the public involved with a 24/7 hotline, which is anonymous, so anybody can call in for whatever you see or hear, and they will have the authority to go and investigate. So he didn't like that. So he said that's not good. reinstate, and then of course it says we will reinstate all the environmental things that they've torn back, like the full liability coverage and the parent company guarantee and the prohibition of gas flaring and water dumping and all that kind of stuff. So that's also we're gonna they're saying we will immediately reinstate those. He doesn't like that. So that's those are the things he said he did. Then we'll make sure that safety and environmental protection is a culture and people would be held accountable. It says that we will conduct an in-depth analysis looking at all we're getting and looking at the price of oil throughout the history of the oil field for every year now, a projected revenue. So when you're planning your annual budget, that's what is going to be based on. So here again is the planning. He said, oh, that's not good. Um, then he said, the other thing is building capacity. He like building capacity. We'll conduct a national skills audit to make sure that we are that we identify where the skills gaps are, so that you can say, well, okay, here is when we put money into education. This is what we're going to be focusing on. They will. Here's another one. Said that we will develop a directory of registered diaspora in of O&G professionals and even beyond O&G professionals and businesses, where we would go to them. And then of course the number 10 is to renegotiate the contract, like that. Then we will look at setting up a national oil company, like that. And then it says that we'll do cradle to grave management plan. The stuff at the issue we just had on the East Bank at COVID. All of that would have been part of that structure, but that's not how we want. They want to give it away to their friends. So that's not what this is saying. This is saying there will be a government cradle to grave planning that will identify where landfills are going to be, all the treatment facilities available, and here's how we're going to do it. And then, of course, the EPA Act, Dr. Hines and the audience, was written in 1996, before oil was even contemplated to be discovered. So it says nothing. I don't think there's a single word in there that says oil and gas or petroleum. So what it says here, that we will go and review and conduct the reviews of all the legislation, and develop and revise the EPA Act to accommodate not only oil and gas, but all the development that are being caused by oil and, resulting from oil and gas. Then it says the other thing is transparency. For full transparency, we will institute a publication of information protocol that is available to anybody, readily available. You can go any place to get that information, including petroleum updates, reserves, all the contracts, all of the agreements, every single thing that comes into the government will be readily made available. And then, of course, going to look at the feasibility, finally look at the feasibility study as to how the oil and gas, how the gas is being utilized, and then conduct a review of the natural resource fund and restructure as necessary. So those are the kinds of things that are there. And he says he doesn't like any one of them, which is not surprising. But then
Well, of
again,
course, he doesn't like them because they don't come from the PPP. He doesn't like anything that talks about oversight.
that's
He
right.
doesn't like anything that talks about good governance.
Yeah.
But I want, for the purposes of this audience, Dr. Adams, for you to address some of the points there in that 20-point plan. I was drawn by the first item there where talks about the advisory committee. Last week we were on here, and I had blurted out that that an advisory committee is something, and I remember your eyes lighting up, because I think you were saying, well, Dr. Hines is becoming an oil and gas expert now. But talk to us about what an advisory committee,
Right.
as the PNC has put it there, how that is going to help with the governance and oversight of the oil and gas industry.
Well, first of all, let's compare to what we currently have. What is the oil and gas committee right now, right? It's a
Yes,
one man.
a one person story.
That
Yeah.
has no idea on any subject that he speak about. So what this is, and one of the foundations of this plan here is to make sure, because these are critical decisions, not only political decisions, but decisions that would have impact everybody's life, is to make sure that whatever decisions and path forward is chosen, it's done on a basis, on strong technical basis. And when I say technical, it's not restricted to engineering and math and science. It's everybody, even social scientists, and because there's social impacts. So when I say I use it in a broad term. It's and I, they use some examples there as to what is this thing, but it's to make sure that any path forward will be advised by the input of these technical experts in this advisory group. So everything would be based, it would be data driven and on some technical basis. It's not like pulling stuff out of the air or saying I'm going to give this contract to somebody because they're my friends and family. No, it will be, and obviously it will be an independent team, because technical folks are not necessarily, if it's different to politicians who kind of, you're looking out for your party and doing what was going to get you reelected, that your next term of office. This is not the case. This is going to be strictly focused in this area to make sure that all decisions are data driven and on some technical footing. So that's what this is about. It's the best path forward. Javier doesn't know that. He's never done this. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't have the intellectual capacity or even the moral fortitude to even understand what that means. So, that's what it is, Dr. It's very important.
One of the things that jumped out at me, Dr. Adams, was that the PNC saying here that they will review the oil contract. They didn't say
Yeah.
renegotiation. Renegotiation is the big thing that everybody's talking about. Renegotiate the contract, renegotiate the contract. But the PNC saying here that they review. Do you agree with that approach?
Well, and our good friend Mr. Norton has always been, and he's much more politically savvy than I am. So um, he's been talking renegotiation, but not using the word renegotiate. So here's what he says, but it means renegotiation. It says, considering the vastly changed conditions since the signing of the 2016 Starbuck Block PSA, and consistent with Article 32.1 of the PSA, which says that you're allowed to renegotiate. We will complete a top to bottom review of the PSA. But here's the other part of that sentence. We will conduct a top to bottom review of the PSA and then engage the Stabroek Block partners to maximize the benefits of the oil resources to the people of Guyana while ensuring a fair share of profit for the Stabroek Block partners. Now, a lot of people say, that I think it's a very nice, crafty way of putting it in there to say we will renegotiate. And Aubrey has been, Mr. Norton has been shying away from using the word renegotiate. However, that's what this statement spells, that he's saying we will renegotiate, but we will do review first, which makes sense. You do review of the, and here are the key words, top to bottom, which means every single word in that contract will be looked at with the input from these exports that I'm talking about, Dr. Hines. The exports in every single field: business, engineering, social, science, political. Everybody going to look at it and say because a lot of people sees things differently. So when he's saying, when we look at this contract, when we review it, then we're going to engage the Stabroek partners and say, here, this is what we believe is best for our country, and that's going to be the starting point. So yes, it is. It doesn't say renegotiate, Dr. Hines, but it means renegotiating.
Yes, yeah. But it makes sense. You got to review something
That's right.
to determine first of all if you got to renegotiate.
That's exactly correct.
And if you're going to renegotiate, what aspects of it you will renegotiate,
That's right.
and so forth. So I get your point there that a review is a prerequisite for renegotiation. You know, no, there are issues and areas of the contract and in its administration that have been attacked relentlessly by those who are opposed to the contract in its present form. Um, have these been addressed in the 20-point plan?
Yes. As a matter of fact, in that same number 10, when it says we will complete a top to bottom review of the PSC and then engage the Starbuck block partners to maximize, etc. The next sentence is say the review will include, but not be limited, include but not be limited to ring fencing, all tax regime, environmental responsibilities, decommissioning, transparency, the timely reporting of information, regulatory oversight and real-time monitoring, auditing, local content, shared management. This is a new one here now. Shared management and decision making in operations in the oil and gas sector. So it's all captured there. And here the keywords top to bottom review means everything. Then the other keywords, with besides the examples, that say these are the items which will be included, but not limited. So everything is there. For example, if as brilliant as you are, you come up with something that is not even in the contract, that's going to be up for or anybody or John Public. Because a lot of times we believe, Dr. Ang, that we believe we're smarter than the regular man out there. But a lot of times, as a professor, the questions that stumps us more than anything is not the question that we get from our intellectual buddies, is when a man with a common sense come and stump you with things that you haven't studied for. You know what I mean? So it says here, so it's captured, the language captures everybody, everything. It's unlimited as to what will be in that negotiation package, whether it's in the contract or out of the contract. It captures everything.
In case you're just joining us, we are discussing here the PNC's 20-point plan for the oil and gas industry. And of course, Dr. Adams is an expert on the oil and gas sector, and we are doing an overview of that 20-point plan. By the way, Dr. Adams, before I go to this other item that I want your comments on, of course, you were part of the AFC, and AFC leader Nigel Hughes had said that he and the AFC have set up an oil and gas committee, and I assume that you are part of that committee, along with people like David Patterson and others. Are you all thinking about putting out your own plan for the oil and gas industry?
Yes, absolutely. And then if you recall, after the committee was set up, myself and David, we in our weekly press conferences, we promised that we will be rolling out our policy statements, and we've started working on those, except that we got beat to the punch by the PNCR. But we welcome it. We welcome this. Is not about a competition between the PNC and the AFC or even the WPA, because I'm sure the WPA is maybe considering the same thing. So it's not a competition. It's what is best for the country, and it may end up us rolling our plans together, because there's nothing come from the PPP, who has all the resources to do those stuff. So yes, we are planning on doing it, and we're gonna get busy now, and so yes, we are planning on coming out with one.
Yeah, and the WPA also, we are working on a comprehensive economic plan, of which there is going to be an oil and gas component.
Yeah.
And so we are going, and I noticed there are some things in the PNC's plan, like the advisory committee, which I blurted out last week, and one of the items there speaks to a national oil company, and that is going to be very much part of the WPA's plan. Professor Clive Thomas has talked about that, but I want you to give me your thoughts on how you see this national oil company operating, because the PNC has it there in its plan. As I said, the WPA, it is part of our plan for the Oil and Gas Committee. I'm sure it's something that the AFC is considering also. Certainly from our perspective in the WPA, a national oil company is so important because it can, among other things, it can bid for blocks, right? So that it's an oil company that is going to be Guyanese owned, but of course not controlled by politicians.
Yep.
It would have some autonomy to go out there and bid for blocks and so on, so that the guy their company can own blocks on behalf of the state of Guyana, not the government, right? So the state of Guyana. But uh, uh, talk to that national oil company and tell our audience how important, if you think so, how important it is for bringing Guyana into benefiting more from our oil and gas if we set up a national oil company.
Very, 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 very important. And as you said, probably the most paramount importance is when you set up such an organization, all that comes thereafter is going to be is going to be modeled off of a business entity. You got to be profitable. So it's going
Yes.
to be like an independent type of a cooperation, and which means you got to be competitive. Which means that politics, you can't allow politics to interfere with your competitiveness, because now you set up a national oil company. Not only are they allowed to bid on blocks locally, within Guyana, but now they can go and bid on blocks in any part of the world.
Hmm.
Petrobras, the Brazilian oil company, is a good example. As a matter of fact, Petrobras, I think, were bid on some of our blocks, so they were supposed to get in on some of our blocks. So, and the most important thing is to develop that technical capacity that we do not have anything of, and the government is out of it. So they would essentially be looking after the interest of the government in terms of even, even being where its partners. We talk about, look at Exxon right now. Let's say you have a national oil company with the kind of expertise, and even if, let's say, Exxon won, what we would do, in my opinion, if I had anything to do with it, is say that we will have a co-management system where, even though we are not basically partners, or you can even put that as part of the contract, that where you have to be partner in some way, whatever the percentage is. There are different models, but we would say, well, okay, we would have co-management of this operation, and that's one of the things that is here, by the way, even without the national oil company, where decisions are made, by this management team, which is like a board, but we would have representation on that board. And even without a national oil company, that's normal. It happens. A lot of countries have that model. But going back to the national oil company, yes, there's no question that I believe that we should have one, and that's part of the plan that is being put forward here. And say it in every which way. To me, you cannot lose, because now you're setting up a commercial type of an entity, that the political connection, at least you're gonna cut that off to maximum extent possible, and that's exactly what we want: an independent, you know, team of folks with all the capacity, with no political interference. And so it's a good thing. Now, there are three basic ways in it, in which, the thing is what you got to start thinking is, how do you get there? It takes a lot of resources to get there. And one of the ways that I like to, I think the way that we ought to go, and that's getting in a lot of details, but one that is that it's funded by, like, now it's Exxon, whoever's our operators, and while we're setting it up, and they would help us develop the team, the training and the mentoring to develop that team, and somehow they're compensated through the oil revenues. So though, but there are three basic type of models as to how you get there. But that's going to be coming in part of the plan. So right now it says that our intent is to do that. That's what it's saying here in the plan. And then the next stage would be how do you get there, which is exactly what's going to be coming out. Each one of these things. So folks, when you hear the vice president comes up with this foolishness that, well, it's only about reviews, that's nonsense. It's a lie to start with, in terms of review, because when you say review, the next sentence is based upon the reviews. I know they don't know anything about reviews, so he wouldn't understand that. But it's very important that you understand that when they say reviews, it's not only reviews, it's action. And this national oil company is very important in terms of planning how you're going to get there. And every one of these has the same thing. It's a plan ahead. So every one of these will carry a plan with it, with the details. So when you hear him say there are no details, there in no policy statement there are details. None. No politician knows anything about how do you plan a technical project. None. But no, let me take that back, because Jack Deere believed that he knows, because you remember the gas to shore project. He said it's a no-brainer. It's his no-brainer. There was no study done. He's telling people that you're going to produce at 4 cents per kilowatt hour. He can't prove anything. Everything is what he says. He cannot show you where that study has been done by the expert to determine that. That's the big difference here. This plan is saying that the to be government will be doing those type of things.
We are discussing tonight the PNC's 20-point plan for the oil and gas industry, doing a kind of overview of it. And we would like to congratulate the PNC for rolling out a plan on the oil and gas. Dr. Adams has said here that the AFC is working on their plan. And we in the WP are also working on a broad economic plan, of which an oil and gas component is going to be very much part of that plan. Doc, number 3 jumped out at me because it has that big C word inside. And I'm sure you have it in front of you. If you can read for our audience what
Yep.
number 3 says there.
But I think that's the one that hit Jack Deere between the eyes, and I'm sure he sweated when he saw that, because that's not part of his forte. It says number 3, to eradicate corruption. Again, to eradicate. It didn't say to lessen corruption, because people would be held accountable. It will be eradicated. To eradicate corruption and unethical conduct by government and contract officials, we will institute an independent inspector general's office with a 24/7 anonymous hotline to involve the public in reporting any knowledge or appearance, not only knowledge of, appearance of corruption. The IG office will be adequately resourced and vested with the authority to conduct independent investigations and, where necessary, recommend prosecution. So it's clear that well, there are two things here. It's clear that the public will be involved. This is not just leaving it in the hand of people like Jagdi and them, where corruption occurs and they turn a blind eye, and they claim that they send people on they got their leave, but they're still on the payroll and that type of stuff. This here, it would have a clear process where people, and involving the public, by the way, because the public are going to see and hear things. You and I know that if you go to a streetcar and stuff, you hear stuff that a lot of people don't even know, but people are afraid to talk. So there's going to be an anonymous hotline. Anybody can call in, and the inspector general's office would have to respond to that calling and then investigate. If it's a no, never mind, or it didn't, or there's nothing there, that's how it's going to end. But if there's something there, there will be prosecution as necessary. Now, this is exactly every single government agency, by the way, in the United States. They have an IG office, and if you recall, up to even President Trump was investigated by an inspector general office. So this is something that has worked, and it will help eradicate corruption, which is something that Jagdeo, no wonder he says he doesn't like it. So he's on the record saying he doesn't like it.
He doesn't like it. And in case you're joining us, of course, we're talking oil and gas here tonight with Dr. Vincent Adams, Evan Rade Posado. I love you, Evan. And Evan, you're saying neither the AFC nor WPA are winning, and I'm using your language here, not my language. Neither AFC nor WPA. It should be is winning. But you say R, Evan. We all make a little mistake with the grammar sometimes. I learned since Vincent, since we there in fourth standard, they say when you say neither, either.
No, that's right.
They teach me that in fourth standard.
That's right.
Evan, be careful.
Either or. The thing you remember those things, either or, neither nor.
Neither nor. Evan, be careful when you're writing in public place because you'll get yourself, we get some sharp people, they eat you raw. Evan, I know you mean neither the AFC nor the WPA is one seat in 2025. Evan, they put you on the rigging team for the PPP. Almost they're paying you to rig the WPA and the AFCO, so you already start rigging. So you
man's got the results. He got the results.
Evan, you're skinning up yourself here tonight with your grammar and your rigging work. I wouldn't block you, Evan, because I use my friend. But watch your grammar. Watch your grammar. You, me, and Dakar, we write camera entrance around the same time. They would bust me ass for saying neither AFC nor WPAR. Evan, if I had a wild kid here tonight, I would have bust your tail for your wrong grammar.
he like we got to teach you the difference between or and nor or and.
Yes. Evan, they put you on the team for start rigging, so you don't know who gonna get seat and who gonna get seat.
And he even went further than that. And the man know the numbers too. You know the number already. It's 0.
But now, Evan, I love you. Evan said, "You're right, Doc. Is this correct?" Evan, I know you know better. You read common entrance. They said to me and Doc, and them thing that you don't forget him at all. You don't forget him at all.
Hey, Doc, we had what was the student companion, and you remember the first
yes, the student companion for saying blue. The first was a blue book.
Blue. And the student companion was an orange. The student companion.
Exactly.
Here, Dr. Hines, I still got it on my shelf here, you know.
You still got it on your shelf?
Yeah, I still got it on my shelf here.
Good evening. Doc, your nephew is on the program here tonight, Richard Munsami.
Yeah.
My good friend. And if I call you Richard Munsami, he just want to box me. Because he just say, I got Kali Kulibai. And I don't make that mistake. I don't use the Kuli only for my friend Richard. Right. Good evening, Richie. You've been missing in action. Everybody has been asking me for you, and I say you're going to Aranca. I tell them Richie is not around because he got to Aranca. Good night, Richie. And as you notice, I'm taking good care of your uncle, your uncle Vincent.
Yeah. You're looking out for me. Tell him I say hi.
He don't play this. He don't make joke. He's not for the coalition, only for Uncle Vincent.
but trust me, he's gonna go wherever your Uncle Vincent go.
Thank you. Keep walking, Penny. Keep walking, Penny.
It causes loyalty. It causes loyalty.
Doc. Of course, I'm going to have the PNC on. I think next week I'm going to try to get Aubrey on if he's available for us to talk about this plan along with young Low so that they can talk about their plan. But of course, I'm discussing it with you partly because you are an expert in oil and gas,
Right.
partly because you're here on Friday night, but partly because Jack Dio already nominate you to the PNC Advisory Committee.
Yeah, yeah, the man, I must be running around in this man's head like some kind of a gremlin, you know. But well, of course, I've got a lot of space in his head to run around with because there's lots of empty space there, so I got a lot of room. But the man, like, he can't sleep or can't think without bringing up my name, especially. But the good thing is, especially when it comes to something where he could never reach, the level of intellect that he can be. So the only, he called my name. Well, they're gonna put people like me um on it. Well, it would be an honor for me to be on it. So, thanks for the recommendation from the vice president. I hope I hope I hope the next president Norton hear that and take that recommendation into serious consideration.
Evan, you have a lot of friends here tonight who are coming to your defense. Yes, they're saying Evan is a UG lecturer. Of course, Evan is my friend. Evan is just mixing up with bad company. And so he getting grammar mix up because of the bad company that he mixing up. Evan is a UG teacher, not a University of IFLA teacher. But Evan mixing up with the University of IFLA people them too much, and that's why he getting the grammar mix up. I know Evan know better. Evan is my friend. They're telling me block you, Evan, but I won't block you because I know you better. Evan, tell us how much. Evan said he scored 106 out of 140 in English. But Evan, there's plenty because English in them days was easy for pass.
No.
106 out of 140.
Here, Dr. Hines, you remember them days? We had to do parsing and class analysis and everything. So you used to look at every sentence. You got to look at every word. I don't know if they do parse analysis and them type of things anymore, where you break up sentences and now them days was rigorous. Them days were rigorous, but
no, we really have, our education system needs totally revamping. I'm not saying to go back because you and I and Evan and all of us went to school during the colonial times. Yeah. What we did is we decolonized the education system by beating them at their own game. So I'm not saying that that is the best education that we could have got. It's that in spite of the colonial orientation of the education, we were able to do well. We didn't do well because of the education system, but it's in spite of the education system, because we had teachers who were themselves product of the decolonization movement, and so therefore they were able in that system to get the best out of us, although it was a colonial system. Unfortunately, we have kept that system, and we have allowed that system to rot. And so our young people, as we are now 60 years away from colonialism, and our young people are not able to negotiate as we did because of the teachers we had at the time. And we are not paying our teachers now the right money. We are not training them in this whole movement of decolonization and post-colonization. So our whole education system needs revamping. Evan, I hope that you will stop hanging out closely with those people from the University of IFLOT and stay close to UG, because it's still UG, for all its fault, is qualitatively a different institution from the University of IFLOT.
But you know what's so funny, Dr. Hines? I'm wondering if that guy who called in to let it appear as if he's defending him is not throwing him under the bus or embarrassing, because remember what the guy says? This is a university lecturer. So he should know better. we gonna keep the quiet, right?
Yeah.
But the man now have to come out and tell people, here we've got a university lecturer, ethno simple grammar. So The message is, everyone, watch your friends. Watch
Watch
your
your
friends.
friend. Watch your friend. You don't get close. When remember Evan when we used to go to school, we never used to say I thought we say UT Fruity. The University of UT Fruity. Stay away from the
Gee.
graduates of that university. Evan, show me your company. I tell you you are. When the last time I see you, Evan, I think I saw you at was Rambo funeral. You shake me hand. I hope you see me again, still shake me hand. Doc, I couldn't help when Jack Dio said yesterday that the AFC is in collusion with the Kaichor News.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm wondering whether that is true. You as a member of the AFC, are you all in collusion with the Kaichor News? And why is Jack Dio making that charge?
Well, it's very simple why he's making. First of all, it's slanderous. Secondly, Jagger believes everybody thinks like he does. Um, but unlike Jagger and his party, of course, the AFC is a party of integrity. We're professionals. There's transparency and there's competency. So Jagger should not be judging anybody by his standard. Remember, this was the same Jagger. This man has the nerve. You remember this? He had for a couple of meetings until he was called out in it. He had his favorite reporter running his press conference. You remember,
Yes, yes,
Mr.
yes.
Pritik? He had him running his press conference, and now and then you could tell that the questions that he and others were asking, they were obviously planted questions. So this man has the nerve, as usual, to come out and accuse anybody of colluding to answer questions. His problem is he cannot answer the questions. So every time he's braced with a question that he cannot kerfuffle anymore, this is the kind of defense that he put up here. Oh, they're in collusion. The questions he blamed the messenger instead of the message. Some simple questions. He goes off with his rantings and ravings. So it's all just being devious again, and it has no credibility. And I don't think people take him any seriously anymore, to be honest, Dr. Hyde. Even his own supporters. I don't think that they and this, remember now, this is a man who, well, he stopped now because I called him out in it in some of my pieces. This is a man who has to remind people that he's not insane. You remember you saw me say, "Well, I am not insane." I know I know why you got to remind people that you're not insane. you know. So this is a man who had to remind people that he wasn't insane. So this is the character that we're dealing with. So I don't think anybody takes him serious. So which means that's a good thing. That's the good thing about it.
Good evening to all of you. Yes, Richie, I assume you're in Guyana. So me tell them you're Ghana Aranka. I assume you were in Guyana when I passed for them me grapefruit by you. I mean, see a big ass and staple by your gate. So I
Like you, Richard, that your own little story there.
yeah, you bring the ass and staple from Kildone and get a big penny gate. Me go there for look for me grapefruit and he lock up the yard tight. I assume you were in Aranka, Krista, Richard. Doc, getting back as we wrap up to the PNC's 20-point plan.
Mm,
Um, we know that the PPP doesn't like feasibility studies.
yep.
It doesn't like plans. It doesn't like anything to do with order. All right.
Yep.
Um, and so tell our audience how important things like feasibility studies and plans are. Why it is better to have a plan than not to have one.
Critical importance. Again, I go back to the United States government, which is the most efficient government in the world. I'll always brag about that. Because I had to work with lots of international governments, representing the U.S. government. But The one thing that they always embed in you, and that you all of your training, every whatever your training, you must have a plan. You must have a plan. When you go to, for example, when you go for money from your politicians before it goes to Congress, you better come up with a plan, because they're going to question you. When it goes to the White House, they're going to question you. And then when it goes to Congress, of course, they've got their political motives too. But you must have a plan. Do you know how the budget cycle for the United States takes almost an entire year? As soon as the one cycle is done, the
Yeah.
next cycle starts immediately. So all of that is planning. So when you do a plan, then all you've got to do now is execute a plan. But if you don't have a plan, guess what, Dr. Hines? Every single day you're going to be pulling stuff from out of the air. Okay, and that's exactly what Jack Deere does. I mean, listen to his press conferences. There is no plan. You must have a plan for, and not only when you put the plan in place, like in basic project management, when you put that plan in place with how long it's going to take, how much it's going to cost, you also have to monitor it and track it to make sure that you're tracking it correctly. There are measurement criteria that you apply the measurement criteria, and we're not doing that in Guyana because we do not have the methodology. Even on our projects, I hear in Parliament, we ask, well, okay, what's the status of the project? And they said 50%. Well, there's only one way um, that you can mathematically measure the status, and it's called our earned value management system. And to be honest, even within the Department of Energy where I work, we only started with introducing it. It was with the military since in the 50s, and we only started introducing it in the early 90s when Congress said, something, I don't like this, because today you come and tell me one project is going to cost 5 billion, and then next year when you come back, tell me it's increased to 7 billion. You better get your act together. We set up an entire department, an entire, like, a separate agency for planning and budget. And you better be able to track, and you better be able to pick up if something happens, like COVID, for example, it gets in your way. You better be able to pick it up immediately so you can correct it and defend what you see. But we have no such system. So the wastage, when you don't plan, Dr. Hines, the wastage is unbearable,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you don't know what you're doing. And then when you go and you hire on top of that, again, it's planning and making sure that the work is executed properly, and you measure the work to make sure and you have qualified people. When you put your plan together, you've got to make sure that here are the qualifications of the people to do the job. You don't just go and pick a friend who's your favorite reporter, for example, and give them $1 billion of contract. That is abuse of government funds. So that is it's really, really critical, because the money, I bet you, if let's say somebody who's very knowledgeable in managing projects and evaluating project costs, I guarantee if they come to Guyana and decide to go through, I'd be willing to bet you that they would see at least 50% in wastage. People say it's 20% or 30. I bet you, because I know there's nothing of the sort in Guyana in terms of, and it has gotten bad. The previous government, the coalition government, was moving towards that direction. The independent MPTAB, because I was one of those who thought that even they were too bureaucratic in things that they were. But it was a good thing. The more bureaucracy you have, at least you're getting over. But now there is none whatsoever. The politicians are all involved. Their hands are all over it. They give anybody that they want the contracts. So we're wasting, and this is not Jaggio's money, folks. And that's why folks got to understand how serious it is. It's your money, the money that could be used to pay teachers to teach your kids, the money that could be used to pay nurses and doctors to look after your health care, the money that could be used for housing, and the money that could be used to make sure that everybody in Guyana are being fed properly. So it's not a case where, well, okay, the government is wasting money, just let it start. It's your money that is being wasted. It's your money. It's impacting you.
It's impacting you. And yes, calling a rank is what they call a wrong place, a wrong place. Yeah, my friend Richie is a old bushman. That's what I tease him about Aranka. Aranka was his favorite hanging out spot. Well, he never tell me that it's called there a wrong place. Why? Only guy needs, only guy needs. Oh wow, only
Hey,
guy.
and the other thing, Dr. Hines, every single senior executive like myself, even though we're executives, we had to be trained in project management so that we can understand. Because remember, we're the ones who hold it, who have got to make the decisions on spending the money. So when these projects comes up from the engineers and the first of all, we understand engineering, but then the project management piece, we need to ask them all of the questions in the world. How are you going to do it? And we vet it before it's finalized and we sign off. And it's a very rigorous process. And we saved, even within the United States, where I said, we used to have wastages, well, not to the extent that they have here, but we have eliminated basically all of that type of wastage, and we are talking about hundreds of billions of dollars, in that size of economy. But nevertheless, it's a huge portion here that where wastage is taking place and could be saved with right technical people. But the other thing with this government, they have no need, as we can see, no need for technical people being involved. They've got a different mission and a different agenda. As long as they can put money in their pockets and give it to their friends, their contractors who have no clue. And then, I mean, look at, like, again, look at this sluice thing here with their favorite person. On to now, how many extension of the project we've gotten, and the extra cost that is costing us for a simple sluice. So that's what we're dealing with, and that's only one little project. That's just one compared to the big ones that are suffering the same thing.
That are suffering the same thing. Dr. Vincent Adams here on a Friday night, and tonight we were discussing the PNC's 20-point plan for the oil and gas industry. I am going to try to get someone from the PNC here next week, Young Low and the leader, Aubrey Norton himself, for them to give their perspective on their own plan. Dr. Adams was giving us an overview of the plan here tonight in his capacity as an oil and gas expert. And I'm sure that when the AFC's plan is finished, that they will be on here along with the WPA's, with their large economic plan, will be here for us to discuss these plans. My brother, thank you very much for coming through. On Sunday night, we'll start early at 6 o'clock because the game is at 7.
Okay.
And in any case, Butcher usually likes to leave. He usually like to leave early on the first Sunday of the month, so you can get to leave early this Sunday. So I'll see you at 6 o'clock on Sunday. Thank you very much, my brother.
All right. Thank you so much, and thanks to the audience too for listening.
And thank you, the audience, for staying with us another night, another Friday night. We are, of course, doing serious work here, some education. As Wardworth McAndrew could say, we get education, we get learning, and we get teaching that's going on here. Evan Prasad, my friend, I know I robbed you a little bit tonight, but my apologies, I couldn't help it. Please, Evan, if you're in the rigging business, please rig at 2 seats for the AFC and at 2 for the WPA, because you have informed us tonight that you are part of the advanced rigging team. Rig up with 2 seats each. Richard, you know what you got to bring back for me when you come in from Guyana. you know what you have to bring back for me. And when you come, don't hide from me. Don't hide from me at all, because I will come and find you. I will come and find you. Thank you very much, all of you. And I'm going to see you all on Monday. And those of you who are into the business of cricket, we'll see you all on Sunday night.